Polynesian plant known as the la'i. Some people also may call it a tea leaf plant. It has over 101 uses. Today I'm going to be making a lei. Lei made from la'i can be used as lei for protection. I'm going to be making a lei today that's going to be twisted with only 2 tea leaf for both of my lima, my hands, and for my HAWAI'I, for my ankles. The la'i plant is traditionally planted at all 4 corners of a home and anywhere else, but especially the 4 corners. And that is a symbol of protecting the home. It's also to let people know in the event that you're in a sacred area. It's planted there as a reminder that it is KAPU or taboo for protection. One of the first things that a person should do prior to lei making is to make sure that you are ma'e, which means pure or clean. The area that you work in is clean, and that you are someplace comfortable. But more importantly is your frame of mind. Now I'm using today's lei for protection, so I want to be very serious when I do these, even though they are simple to make, but the meaning behind them and their purpose is of the utmost importance. We'd be calm. We'd be thinking of the intentions of making the lei. We'd be asking permission to the plant in order to even be able to pick the la'i. A short example in Hawaiian and then in English. Ke noiaku ne vau ia o koa pauloa e nā kinia kua no ka ho'opa kele mai ia'u. Ke noiaku ne vau I ka la'i no ka lau no ka hana ana I ka lei no ka ho'opakele mai ia'u. O keia mau mea ue noi ia o kou pakahia pau me ke aloha. Mai kai kauai hemolele I ka mālie a mama ua noa. The terms that we use to describe each tip of the la'i are similar to that of a fish. So we call the tip of the la'i, we refer to that as the po'o, which means head, and then the tips of the la'i are referred to as the hi'u, or the tail, exactly like a fish. Now there are many fish that are named after plants because they look similar to them. And you'll notice that I have chosen some la'i that are slightly turning palahu. Palahu means ripe, and in this case I'm referring to the yellow gold colors that are appearing around the edges of the la'i. These colors, gold, yellow, green, and other colors like red and black, are colors that represent KAPU, or things that are forbidden or sacred. And by choosing a laula'i that has a little bit of the palahu colors in it, the yellow, red, golden colors, it's going to imbue my lei with mana, or more of it, because whatever you're making with your own hands goes into the product, in this case your lei that you're making. And thus, whoever wears that lei or wherever that lei goes, that mana or lack thereof will carry with you, or be brought along with the lei. Which is why your intentions of making the lei need to be quite clear before you even begin to pick your materials. You have to have aloha from within. Now, the first part of the procedure is to remove the iwi. Iwi in Hawaiian means bone. And so the hard stem running up through the po'o from the hi'u, called the hi'u. Just like a fish, we call the head a po'o, and we call the tail a hi'u. So I'm going to debone, as we refer to it, this laula'i. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to remove the hard part of this iwi. Now, this is an easy process if you've been doing it for as long as I have, but really it can be quite difficult, and I use my teeth. Some people use a knife, but what I'm going to show you here is that what you want to do is, if you make an incision just right so that you're not ripping the leaf, and you're not poking a hole through it, but you're actually splitting the iwi in half so that you can peel it off. And this part up here is going to remain a little bit solid, but we're going to soften the leaf to help that problem. And with the rest of it, what we're going to do gingerly, I could do this really quickly, but I'm showing you how to do it, and the leaf is wider than my hand. What you're doing is you're removing the stem. You don't want the side of the low to rip, because each one of those lines is almost like a perforated piece of paper. If you start to rip it there, it'll keep on going. So you can see how, as I'm holding on with my index finger underneath and carefully pulling as not to crush, bend, or fold the leaf while I'm doing this, you're gonna see, once we debone it, it's going to be more supple. What I was taught when making traditional leis is that we don't cut the leaf off of the plant. As I showed you, I huki, or I pull leaf off of the plant, because it has a certain way in growing in which it can be pulled off easily from the stalk if you are getting one that is an older leaf. The closer you get to the center, those are the newer ones. The more you risk the whole entire bunch of leaves snapping off. What's actually going to happen is it's going to form a new one. It will sprout a new maka, a new eye, so to speak, of the plant, and that will begin to grow into leaves. I'm going to show you one other thing that amazes people. It amazed me when I saw it. It's a cup, and all you got to do is fold the leaf like this, dip it into the stream, and, well, don't be dipping it into the streams these days. The higher up the mountain you are, the more pure the water source is. So if you're up the mountains and you need some fresh water, grab yourself a tea leaf, debone it, and make it into a little cup. And you can drink from it. People have different ways of doing this, but the bottom line is what we want to do is to soften the tea leaf itself so that it can be braided. There are different ways to do this. I'm going to use the microwave method today, in which we want to keep them wet and rolled up and put into the microwave. You gotta watch the process. You have to watch your time, because if you overheat them and don't keep them moist, they're gonna dry out and be crunchy. Keep them wet, and you're gonna roll as gently as you can, not a tight roll. Just a slight roll. These are actually going to be tying our lei together. No string needed. And I'm just going to put them in here. This is not a long process. It's just one that you have to make sure you monitor. It only takes a minute or two. Not even 2 minutes. It depends on how many leaves you have. We only have 4 here, so we're gonna have to watch it closely. So about every 20 seconds or so, I'm going to check on it, douse them with more water, and see how soft they are. Be careful, it gets hot. Smells a little bit like spinach cooking sometimes, but this is actually what laulau is made in. These are the leaves. You wrap up the leaf of the kalo, which inside the leaf of the kalo, they either put butterfish or pork and some salt inside. And just like I've done here, they wrap it, and these are used to tie it up traditionally. Not soft enough yet, so I'm gonna put them back in. So I'm gonna let the tea leaf cool off after taking them out of the microwave, and they should be ready and easy to twist and or braid. Something else I want to mention while we're waiting for those to cool is what to do with your opala, or your green waste rubbish. These should go right back outside into a compost pile, never in a rubbish can or a garbage can. And another thing I want to mention is while you're making lei, a lot of times we sit on the floor to do them. And so your materials are usually on the floor or at a workstation. The main thing is you don't ever want to walk over your materials. And there's a lot of meaning that goes with that. It has to do with your ma'i, which are your private parts, because it's like sitting on a table that you eat on. Nobody wants their elemu, their bottom, someplace where they put their food to eat. So it's a traditional no-no that we follow. We don't step over our materials. Here's an example of what you don't want to happen, although it'll be all right, because once you've been working with these for years, you know, once you become a expert at something, you always know little ways to tuck here, you know, fold here, tie here. This one started ripping right there, but again, to the low, to the pull, that would be the tip of the leaf, the head of the leaf, and split down the middle. And it's okay to have to do this more than once. The main thing is you don't want to waste the leaf by over heating it to make it supple. So they should be ready now. Okay, and here's what we're gonna do. You want to make sure you keep the leaves together so that they are the same length. If you were making a bigger lei, you would still start off like this, but we're only going to do one, so we don't need to add on anything. Add new leaves in. So I'm going to make a knot right there using either your teeth or, yes, we put it between our big toe and the index toe, but you need something that's going to anchor it and make it taut so that it doesn't start to curl and wind up on you. So I am going to use my feet. So if you're going to use the method to anchor it between the toes, make sure that they're clean, because it's all about mae, pureness, and in this case about KAPU. I'm going to start it off in my mouth, but basically what you want to do is you twist and turn. This is why it needs to be taut, even if you're braiding. So you know, I'll spare you guys watching me put it between my teeth and not being able to speak. Okay, but let me get it started off and we'll finish it down using the toes. Okay, so what I did was I started it. What you want to make sure is that you're twisting both sides, or you know, it doesn't matter right here only because I'm going to be using to tie it around with. But once you start getting to this point, if your leaf is not completely softened in order to be twisted or braided, it's going to form a straight line with what appears to be like a snake-like figure wrapping around it, and you want to avoid that. We're going to put it in between the two. Most important thing to remember is the reason why you're doing it, why you're making the lei, and making sure that your intentions are pono, which means proper. So sometimes what I do to make sure that my leaves twist well is I just give them, I start to twist them. That way I know the leaf is supple. And you're gonna get the tea leaf oil starting to come out, and it will be sticky. So at best you should have a wet washcloth or rag, paper towel, to make sure. Now, because the stem part is a little long, I had to anchor it back there between the other toes rather. And you're twisting, and then twist the two together. Twist the individual leaf, twist the two together. And this comes a time when you want to start twisting, and make sure you keep it taut, pulling back towards you so that it doesn't start to curl. A lot of times it seems funny, but it was one of the best ways to learn. We would take courses taught in Hawaiian language by the kupuna, which are the older folks, the grandparents' age, in which you sit down, they teach you how to do it, and the main point of the whole class, in addition to learning the art, is speaking conversationally. With conversational Hawaiian, as opposed to learning from just the textbook and repeating or translating a bunch of sentences. So while you're making lei, if you're with other people, you want to, as we say in Hawaiian, talk story about positive things. No gossiping, no hauwala'au. Remove yourself from toxic places the best that you can. Okay, and as you can see, I'm coming towards the end, and because these are just going to be single for my arms and legs, or my wrists and ankles rather. I'm getting towards the end. You're going to see that the po'o, the low of the lau, the tip of the leaf, if I were making a longer lei, this is where I would add the new ones. And so you got parts of the leaves that stick out and make a great decoration. But this is going to actually be used to tie my lei now. Let's say I'm going to wrap it around my ankle, okay? Which I'm eventually going to have to do. While it's on, I will take the two ends, okay? And I'm going to make a knot here to tie this part. You want to make sure it's what we say in Hawaiian. It is pa'a, like the name of the town, kapa'a, which means closed, secure, or fastened. Now the lau is very delicate, so you don't want to pull, but you have to make sure these don't fall off. If they fall off and somebody else gets a hold of them, it's your mana that's in there, and they can do bad things to you if they wanted to. That is the traditional Hawaiian belief anyway. I'm not going to wear these now, but I am going to just show you how even if it's too long for you, on how you would go ahead and do that. These can be used for protection when you go hiking. They are used for hula, depending on where you're going, what you're doing, but a tea leaf lei will always protect you. But always remember that a lei needs to be made with good intentions. This has been your Hawaiian culture clip on Leila'i no ka ho'opekele ana ike kapu. These are your tea leaf lei that help protect you, and it also symbolizes sacredness. Mahalo, a hui hou.